There's no piece of equipment that we use more here at the barbecue lab than our chamber vacuum sealer. Leftover barbecue meats, stocks, soups, prepping meats for the sous vide, even freezing bulk meat packs from the grocery, and more keep us coming back day after day, but they are admittedly more than a food saver external style sealer. Even though we use it 5 to 6 days a week, to get into a chamber sealer, you're going to have to spend some money, but I'm going to show you how you can own a chamber sealer for less than it would cost you to run an external food saver type. But first, let's put them to the test to see which sealers can pass our mountain of tests. I'm David Gafford, and here at the Barbecue Lab, we put outdoor cooking gear to the test so you don't waste your money buying bad gear. Today, we're going to test sealing liquids, which is the bane of all external vacuum sealers on the planet. We'll take a look at economics and how to make your vacuum sealer purchase so you save money year over year. We'll seal some meat. We'll test how loud they are, walk through what makes them different from each other, and so much more. But first, let's meet the contenders. Out of the gate, we have the VacMaster VP95 coming in at $799. The JVR Vac 100 is $899. The Meat Chamber Vacuum Sealer is $999. The JVR Vac 110 is a larger sealer from JVR coming in at $999. And the absolute behemoth in this roundup is the Meat 16-inch Chamber Vacuum Sealer, available for $1,699. Now it brings to question, why didn't we include insert your favorite brand here in this roundup? Now, we did reach out to many more manufacturers to source test units, and if they're not included, we didn't hear back after multiple attempts through multiple communications channels. Now, some brands don't want to be compared to the competition, and I'll just leave it at that. Let us know down in the comments who you hoped that we were going to test, and we'll see if we can get hands-on for a future follow-up. Let's go ahead and check out the dimensions on each and every one of these units. Let's go ahead and check all of the external dimensions, then we'll take a look on the inside. This is the JVR Vac 110. For a width, we have 13 3/4 inches. For a height, to the top of the lid, we have right around 13.5. But if we're gonna look at the top of the dome of the lid, I'm looking at probably 16.5 inches is the space you'd want to plan for that. And from a depth perspective, I'm seeing just over 19.25 inches. At the 12-inch Meet Your Maker, we have 14 inches on the dot from a width. At height, we have right around 12.5 to the front of the lid. Now, with the dome section of the lid, I'm going to say 14.5 to 14 3/4. And then if we look at the depth, I see 16.5 inches. The VacMaster VP95, for the width, I have 11.5 inches. Now, the real width is going to be from this bar to this bar. So if we say using the bar, it'd be right at 12 inches wide. From a height perspective, we have 9 3/4 inches. But if we also plan for the bar, it's probably safe to say 10 inches tall. In case you can't tell, the front of this is actually pushed out a little bit on the bottom here. So you've really got to plan this depth in accordance with the depth of the rest of the unit. So if we go all the way from the back to that, I see 17.5 inches being the true depth of the unit. The JVR Vac 100 is up next. We have a width of, let's see, there's this little notch out right here you can see. So probably the true width is going to come here. I'm going to say 16.5 inches to be safe from a width perspective. Our height, we are coming in right at, I'd say 9 inches would be safe, but I'd say it's probably closer to 8 3/4. And from a depth perspective, I am seeing 19.5 inches deep. For the Meet Your Maker 16-inch, this thing is a behemoth. When you look at this in comparison to the others, it is very large. But let's go ahead and look at the size of it. We have 19.5 inches is what our size is, I'm going to say, because if you look on the side, there are these little fluted pieces of metal where it's venting out all of the hot air. That right there sticks out just enough that it's really 19 inches, but if you plan a 1/4 inch on each side for these, it's 19.5 inches wide. From a height perspective, I'm seeing about 15 inches high to the front of the lid. But if you account for the domed section of the lid, I think you've got to look at about 17¾ to 18 inches tall. For the depth, going all the way to the back, all the way to the front, we are right at 21½ inches deep. When you're ready to jump online and make a purchase, be sure to check the description below for special links and discount codes where you can save even more. Pricing is always changing, and right now many of the prices I listed are lower than what I said. So the description will always be updated with the discount links and codes we have available to save you some cash. I'd like to take a minute to thank today's sponsor of this video, which is me. We're launching a new series of barbecue rubs through a Kickstarter, and you can bring the flavors of the barbecue lab home. I designed each of these rubs over more than 5 years and hundreds of versions to land on what I believe are the tastiest barbecue rubs in the market today. The feathered formula for poultry, I just love this on wings. We also have the essential equation for everywhere you use salt and pepper. This is our salt, pepper, garlic blend, and my favorite is cooking steak and smash burgers with this one. And lastly is our pork protocol, which is a match made in heaven with pork butts and ribs. Now, our sale runs through Cyber Monday, and then it's done. So if you want to get in on these flavors, now is the time. We also have a stretch goal if we can raise that $10,000 funding mark, where we'll offer our feathered formula hot as a bonus to all of you who want to jump in on this. Just click the QR code on the screen or use the link below in the description, and you can get your hands on these bottles before Christmas. I want to say a special thank you to me for sponsoring this video. Now let's look at the inside dimensions. You'll see that each one of these have some level of spacer plates that are inside. We're going to go ahead and take all of those out for these measurements. I want you to see the largest the chamber can be in our measurement today. Let's start with depth. We have a depth in here of 15 inches from the front to the back of the chamber, but if you're going to account for the bar itself, we are talking about right at 13½ inches to the front of the bar. For width, we have 11½ inches, just a little shy of that, probably 11¼ inches is what we're seeing on the width here. And for depth, if we look at the bottom all the way up to the top of the metal, we have 2¾ inches available here, and the rest we're going to find available in the lid. For the lid, if I take the tape measure and I stick it all the way up into the dome here, if I look at it straight on, I've got about 3 inches of space in the dome that I can get in addition to the depth of the chamber itself. For the Meet Your Maker 12-inch, if we look at the depth, we have 13¾ inches from metal to metal. If you go to the front of the bar, the ceiling bar, it's right at 11¾ inches. 11¾ is what I would say from the width. If you look at the depth, we have a very gradual slope on all angles. So the true absolute depth is going to be in the middle, and the question is how to get a true measurement on that. If we look straight on, I would say you have about 3 inches at the deepest part of the 12-inch Meet Your Maker sealer. Now, the rest of that's going to be in the lid. So take our tape measure, stick it up against the lid, and if I go straight on and look at it, I would say you get right about 2 inches of extra space in the lid on this sealer. Here we are at the VP95. I'm going to go ahead and take out the insert. You can see there's a good depth on this one, so I can't wait to measure that here in just a second. Let's start with the front to back. We have 12 inches for front to back, but to the front of the ceiling bar, we are right at, I'd say 10¼ inches is probably what I would say to be safe. On the width here, we have right at 9½ inches wide, and for depth, here we are in this smaller unit. We're still getting 3 inches of depth in this smaller unit on the VP95. Now, what we don't gain here is anything in the lid, because you can see this lid is completely flat. So there's no dome in the lid to give you any extra space on this one. So that's the limitation here. On the VAC 100, back to front, we have 12 inches. If you look to the front of the ceiling bar, we have 10 inches to the front of the ceiling bar. On the width, we have right about 13¾ almost 14 inches wide. That's very wide in comparison to any of the others that we've seen to date. And you can see from a depth perspective, we have this recessed circle hole in the bottom that's going to give us our deepest measurement. And if I look at that one straight on, I'm going to say you get about 4¼ inches by my measurements, 4¼ inches from the bottom here to the top of where it seals. Now again, another flat lid. So when you put this lid down, there's no dome surface area to be able to get anything taller than that, but that is some really good depth in a flat lidded unit. On the Meet Your Maker 16-inch, our depth is metal to metal 18 inches. that is really a long chamber, 18 inches. Our width on this chamber is 17 inches metal to metal. For the depth here, we have a graded slope all the way around. So our deepest measurement is going to be right in the middle. And the tough thing is going to be trying to figure out how deep that really is. And if I look at straight on, I've got about 3¾ inches deep. Now again, we have a domed lid here. And for our domed lid, I'm going to go ahead and stick our tape measure up there and see if I can get a straight on shot. Oh man, this one's tough. I'm going to say about another maybe 2½ inches, somewhere around 2¼ 2½ is my guess of the measurement we get for the top. So there's really good height between the top of the dome and the graded slope here at the bottom. This one is huge. The seal bar measurement is going to tell us how wide of a bag we can seal on each of these. And you can see here on the VAC 110, if we go from side to side, we have an 11-inch bar on this one. On the Meet Your Maker 12-inch, our bar is right at 11¾ inches. On the VacMaster VP95, our bar is right at about 9¼ inches wide. For a width of the bar on the VAC 100, we have 12½ inches wide. And here in the behemoth of the 16-inch, our seal bar comes in at 16 inches and maybe 1/8, but 16 inches, definitely. One question I'm sure you're asking is what size bags can fit in these? Well, the VAC 110 has a maximum size capacity of 11 by 16. Here we are at the Meet Chamber Vac. This has a maximum size of 11 by 13. The VP95 has a maximum size of 9 by 11. The VAC 110 is 12 inches by 14 inches. And the Meet 16-inch, I'm going to say, is right around 16 by 16. You might be able to do 18 by 16, but I got to tell you, this is a huge bag if you're looking for the maximum size that you can get in one of these units. By the way, if you're getting value out of this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more videos just like this. It's time to test these vacuum sealers with what most of us will use them for in the barbecue community, and that's vacuum sealing meat. I have a pound of ground beef here that I picked up at the supermarket in a value pack. We're going to see if we can package 1 pound in all of these and see how it goes. Now, if you notice, I put that in one of those clips, but it looks like there's room for a second one there. So if we went ahead and put a second one in, could you do 2 bags in the VAC 110 at the same time for 1 pound bags? And the answer is yes. But for this test, we're just going to test the one because I only bought 6 pounds. I can't do it for everyone. Here we go. All right, VAC 110, nice looking seal on that. That looks lovely. Same test on the Meat Chamber Sealer. Now, could we do 2 bags on the Meat Chamber Sealer? Maybe, but I think the limiting factor is this clip right here. When you look at this clip, there's only really room for 1 bag in this clip. You'd have to kind of position it, and I don't think it would work. So I think this is really a 1 bag machine. Nice looking seal on that one. Let's see, did that seal all right? Let's see. Oh yeah, good looking seal. Here we are on the VP95. Good looking seal. Couple little wrinkles there, it looks like. But we are nonetheless vacuum sealed on the VP95. Over here on the Meat 16-inch sealer, I wanted to see if we could get 3 bags done at the exact same time. But there's a couple limitations here. Number one, there's not enough width to be able to fit 3 6-inch bags. It's only a 16-inch wide bar, and we would need about 18 inches. So one of these is not going to work for sure. The other thing is that when you start looking at this, there's no clip on this. There's just these little rubberized pads to hold things in. You need to get those over where you want this to hold, and you need to get this over where you want this to hold. And by the time you get it down there, it just wants to slide towards the middle. All of these want to slide towards the middle, just like that. So I don't know that you can do multiple bags on this one, primarily because of the clip system. So I'm just going to try to do one bag on this. Put the bag in the middle, have that hold down on 3 points, and there we go. So here's the problem I have on this one. It doesn't want to hold this down. Like I have this down here. It does not want to hold that. So maybe I need to put this out here and have this out here and then keep one in the middle. Does that do it? It just does not want to stay. So small bags are giving this thing fits. All right, to help out the 16-inch, I took one of the plates from the other units and put it here so it would hold this bag upright, because this is just too small of a bag for this large of a sealer. So I think if you're going to be doing smaller bags like this, you're gonna have to put some kind of a brace to keep the bag up so you'll actually get a seal on the bag. With the brace, it worked like a charm. Got that seal on there quite beautifully, lovely. So yeah, just using this to brace it made all the difference in this large sealer. Here we are at the VAC 100. We have 2 bags in here, 1 pound bag each. I love this about the VAC 100. It's really built to be able to do 2 smaller bags at the exact same time with that extra width. Let's go ahead and run this test and see how it does. Here we are, seal number 1 and seal number 2. Both of them look great. The JVR VAC 100 is a beast for multiple 1 pound bags at a time. Just remember, before you go to the freezer with these, make sure you push them out so you can get these nice and flat in the freezer, just like that. Flat stacking for the win in the freezer. One of the things I really like about chamber vacuum sealers is how they handle liquid. This is a bag of water. We're gonna go ahead and take this, put it here in the VAC 110. I'm gonna just take the bag, put it right underneath these little clips. Now we're gonna see if we can make our own little freezer water pack. And all I have to do is close the lid. Let's see how it does. All right, here is our pack that we just made on the VAC 110. Did a great job, nice seal, no leaks. Same test on the meat chamber vac. There's our seal on the bag. There's our water. We turn it upside down. We got a good seal. All right, here we are on the VP95. Let's see how it handles a bag of water. All right, there's our seal on the VP95. The water looks like. Let's see how it did. All right, good to go on the VP95. And on the VAC 100. Here we go. All right, there's our seal on the VAC 100. And let's see how we did. Good to go. Here we are on the Meet Your Maker 16-inch sealer. Let's go ahead and do the water bag test, see how it does. As you can see, the seal moved on us a little bit, and we barely got this little corner here to seal, but in turning it upside down, we're good to go. So that one worked as well. In a second, we're going to talk about the types and sizes of bags that each of these sealers can work with. But first, I want to pass a question off to you. Tell me down in the comments below, is the main reason you wouldn't buy a chamber sealer just the price? Or is there another reason why you'd stick with the external Food Saver style sealers? I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. So let's discuss down in the comments. One of the things that chamber sealers are known for is their ability to work with both Mylar and retort bags. If you're not familiar with Mylar bags, they're what you would see used with MREs, and they have a light barrier for long-term shelf-stable storage. Retort bags are used for canning, some shelf-stable uses, and those who have space constraints for long-term storage. In this video, both the JVR VAC 100 and the VAC 110 can seal Mylar and retort bags using the additional retort sealing bar. Now, the bags that you traditionally know from external vacuum sealer use are called embossed bags, and they can be used with all of the sealers in this test. There's a catch though. They're much more expensive to use. I'll go into detail on this later in the FAQ section, but first, let's talk mason jars. Another fun feature is that you can seal mason jars in these chamber sealers. We're starting here at the VAC 110, and if you look, this is a 16-ounce mason jar, this is an 8-ounce mason jar. With that domed lid, you can fit 9 of the 8-ounce mason jars, and you can fit 4 of the 16-ounce mason jars at once in this sealer, which is a great benefit to those who like dry canning. Here on the meat chamber sealer, I can't get the lid to quite close with a 16-ounce jar in there. It's just barely a little too tall, but with the 8-ounce jar, I can easily fit 4 of those here in the chamber, no problem. Here on the VP95, you can see that there's no dome on this lid. This is the 8-ounce, and if I go to put it down, it's gonna hit that lid every time. So standing up, that's not gonna work. The 16-ounce, also not gonna work in here. So this one is not really designed for mason jars at all. Here we are at the VAC 100, and if you take out this little filler plate, you have enough room in the bottom for us to put 4 of the 8-ounce mason jars and close the lid without any problem. So this will do 4 8-ounce mason jars. It will not do the 16-ounce because there's no dome in the lid, and the lid will hit that. So that's not gonna work out. But 4 8-ouncers is what you can put in this one. And here at the meat 16-inch, we have a 16-ounce jar. Let's see, will it fit? Yes, it will. It looks like you could probably fit, I'm guessing, probably at least 4, if not 6 of the 16-ounce jars in this unit. Now, how many of these could we do? Notice there's a little slope to this. So these are kind of sloping in. I think that's one of the issues you're going to have with mason jars, is that there's not an entirely flat surface down here. But I'm going to say with these, you could fit probably at least 9, if not maybe even 12 of the 8-ounce jars inside of here because of the massive dome on the lid. I think this one could be potentially really good for the smaller mason jars. There are 2 models in this roundup where you can use external vacuum accessories, things like canisters and hoses and things like that, but it's really the VAC 110 and the VAC Master VP95. If you look right here, you can see this is where all of the air is evacuated from the VP95, and this is where all the air is evacuated from the VAC 100. That's where these accessory hoses attach on these units, and you can vacuum a wine bottle to save that for later. You can use multiple sizes of canisters. I know that the VAC 100 has a small, medium, and large size canister you can use, as well as a full gallon size canister that you can put 2 64-ounce mason jars in, or I believe 4 32-ounce mason jars in that. Those accessories make these much more versatile than even just those smaller external vacs that you can get. One thing to consider when you're looking at buying a chamber vacuum sealer is whether the pump is a dry piston pump or an oil pump. All 5 of these models are oil-based pumps, which means it pulls the air out through the oil to create a vacuum. A dry piston pump uses no oil, and it's fine if you're doing dry sealing or operating in a low humidity environment. If you're doing barbecue and a bunch of wet sealing, vapors will enter the pump, eventually causing internal corrosion. That's where you really have to get to know what pump you're buying in your sealer. Dry piston pumps will pull on average about 90% of the air out of the chamber, while oil pumps pull out more than 99%. The more you know. Here's a question we get asked all the time. Can these fit a brisket or ribs or any of the like in these? This is a brisket from Porter Road. We pulled it out of the freezer for this. Let's see if it fits in the VAC 110. That would be a no on the VAC 110. How about on the meat chamber vac? That's going to be a no as well. How about the VP 95? I don't think so. The VAC 100? Nope. Now, what about the behemoth of them all? Can the meat 16-inch fit a full brisket? Yes, indeed. It's time for a little bit of decibel testing. What we're going to do is we're going to take the decibel meter, put it right in front of the vacuum sealer, put our microphone right next to it so you can hear and see the levels of each one of these sealers, and we'll show you the highest numbers that we get. Here is the baseline. Here is the meat chamber vacuum sealer. Here is the VacMaster VP 95. This is the VAC 100. We're out of room on the front, so we're going to put it right here on the front side and run the decibel meter test. This is the Meet Your Maker chamber sealer. Here we go. There are 3 different levels of warranty that come from the 3 manufacturers. VacMaster offers a 1-year limited warranty, and you can read the fine print on their website as to what's included in that and what isn't. JVR has a 1-year warranty and there's no fine print. 1 year, you're completely covered. Now, I can speak from experience that JVR can also send out parts for their machines so you can fix anything yourself. Guess how I learned so much about changing oil on these units? I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but let's just say the ability to change parts and work on your vacuum sealer is very valuable if you're new to chamber sealers. Meet Your Maker has a lifetime warranty on all of their chamber sealers. Now, there's a lot of reading to do on the Meet website about their lifetime warranty, so you'll want to read that through to fully understand what that means, but a lifetime warranty in this category is pretty unrivaled and worth noticing. Let me run through a few questions that we have been asked over the past year from last year's vacuum sealer video. Do you have to hold the power button in order for it to operate? None of these models need you to hold the power button. They all start pulling a vacuum when you simply close the lid. Does it have a detachable power cable? Yes, all 5 units have a detachable power cable. Do any of them need a cool down time if I'm doing a lot of sealing back to back? Well, this is one of the primary benefits of an oil-based pump. None of these units need a cool down time, and they're ready for marathon sealing sessions. Since these are oil pump sealers, how often do I need to change the oil? Well, this is a great question. If you're not aware, you do have to change the oil in an oil pump. The basic instructions are usually to change the oil every 6 months, but it really depends. If you're in a typical area with 40 to 60% humidity, just stick to the owner's manual. If you're not, though, and you have really high humidity and you're sealing liquids, you kind of want to cut the manufacturer's time that they give you in half. I change my oil about every 4 to 5 months since I'm sealing lots of juicy barbecue, and my oil gets quite dirty if I don't stay on top of oil changes. Are the bags cheaper for chamber vacuum sealers compared to external sealers? This is the huge savings that a chamber vacuum sealer will bring you. A typical external bag, like you'd use with a Food Saver style of sealer, can cost you 40 to 50 cents or more per bag. A chamber pouch usually costs only about 8 cents per bag or less for the typical 8x12 or quart size. Now here's a screen grab from Target for Food Saver bags, and the quart size is over $12 for just 20 bags. That's 62 cents per bag. Now, I go through over 500 bags every year, and at 8 cents, I'm spending $40 a year on bags. Now, for an external sealer with the embossed bags, I'd be spending more than $300 a year just on bags. And this is where a chamber vacuum sealer becomes the cheaper option in the long run. Buy it once, get a great warranty on your purchase, and your savings in bags will pay for the cost of the unit over a few years of bag cost savings. Can I seal leftover barbecue while it's still hot? I do not recommend sealing hot barbecue. The meat really needs to be cold because hot product will boil more quickly when the vacuum is being pulled and more vapors will get into your pump. Now, the benefit of doing it when the meat is cold is that you can increase the time allocated to pull a vacuum, which means you're getting a higher vacuum draw, maximizing the potential of a full vacuum. Now, when you start to see any water or sauce boil in the bag, you've maximized your potential vacuum, and now vapors are getting into the oil in the pump. Now, cold vacuum sealing is really just the best way to do it. Here are some final thoughts on each model for our comparison. The VacMaster VP95 is incredibly quiet, so if you're looking for the sealer that you can run while your partner is asleep in the same room, this is the sealer for you. Now, compared to the others in the group, it's by far the smallest, and the lack of a domed lid means it's missing out on the utility that the rest of the group has. This sealer is for small batches of small bags, in my opinion, but if that's what you're after, it does it well. The JVR Vac 100 has been our workhorse vacuum sealer for the past 9 months here at the Barbecue Lab. We have a wheeled cart for it that we keep hidden in the dining room, and we're using this sealer 5 to 6 times per week. It's very versatile, and from Mylar and retort bags, mason jars, the various filler plates when we're working with smaller sealing jobs, and so much more, I really like this unit. If you want to give the Vac 100 a try, you can save $100 off your order by using the code BBQLAB100 at checkout. If this is the way you decide to go, I know that you're going to love this chamber sealer. The meat chamber vacuum has been the sealer that we kept in the garage for the past year, set up on a table when we needed it for sealing 80 or 90 meals at a time for our friends who are going through the circumstances of life. If you haven't seen our video on how we do meal prep for others, I'll link that down in the description below. The meat chamber vac is a beast. There's room to spare in most ways that we use it. One thing that kind of annoys me is that there's 3 super loud beeps at the end of each cycle. Sometimes I'm trying to be quiet and this sealer isn't quiet, so I wish you could turn those beeps off. If you know how to turn that off, leave me a comment down below because I'd love to know that option. Now, you can save some cash on the purchase of a meat sealer as well using the code down below in the description. The JVR Vac 110, being the big brother to the Vac 100, offers many of the same strengths with a little extra room for larger bags. The domed lid is also a game changer if you want to work with the 16-ounce mason jars or just a small army of the 8-ounce jars. I think that's where the Vac 110 excels. Larger Mylar and retort options and mason jars set this unit apart from the rest of the group. If you're not just sealing meat for barbecue, this is a sealer that has a lot of tricks up its sleeve. Now, the meat 16-inch chamber vacuum sealer is simply the largest chamber vacuum sealer that I've ever used. It's simply gigantic. That it can fit a whole brisket is still beyond me, and in a chamber sealer nonetheless. Just wow. The question is, should you spend another $1,000 just to vacuum seal briskets? Well, if that's your business, maybe, but most of us don't need to do whole briskets multiple times a day to justify the cost. Now, I think the meat 16-inch is perfect for the hunting cabin where you're processing lots of meat and want to save whole muscles without cutting them down. Now, that's where this one shines for me. Now, as always, if you want to save some money on this model, make sure to check out the discount code and the link down in the description below. I'm David from the Barbecue Lab. I want to say thanks so much for checking out this video. Smash the like button if you got value, and we can't wait to see you on the next one.